So who is Harley Hamlin?
My name's Harley Hamlin, and I'm an advocate for daily growth and a future athlete. I'm a very authentic individual that stays aligned within myself, and I stay true to what I say that I will do long after the mood that has said it in its past. I firmly believe that you should leave this spirit of excellence and an embodiment of grace in everything that you do, and leave a great impression on the people that you meet. I feel like a lot of people go through different phases of life which can draw them closer to spirit or can send them further from it. And I think I found a sense of belonging in spirituality, not an ooey-oo sense where we do rain dances and do all these different practices. I think as humans we have a spiritual aspect to ourselves, and when we start to pay more attention to that and we can start to live in alignment with that version of ourselves, then our physical reality can become a manifestation of those beliefs that we have internally, what our internal monologue helps us create in the external. And my deep-rooted belief in spirituality began when I started to realise that my thoughts and feelings were creating what I had outside in the real world. And that led me to a point of crossroads where it was, if I can choose to either live a better life based on the way I think and feel, or I can live a worse life off the way I think and feel, what would I prefer? And what that enabled me to do was dive deeper into vibration and the way that we operate as people. And I then just simply made a decision of, if I can think myself into success, if I can think myself into happiness, into different environments, then why would I not want to pay more attention to the better aspects of my life? And from that point on, that's enabled me to handle any endeavour, handle any setback, handle any adversity, any hurdle with the spirit of excellence, and know that everything I'm going through is an ability or gives me the potential to grow through.
Why are we here?
We're here to run the Lisbon Marathon. I have a set goal, I have a set time in mind. One thing that I have realised about having this set goal is aiming for a sub 3 hour marathon. I did run the London Marathon in April 2024, but that was not a planned event. That was, got lucky into a ballot, didn't take it seriously, didn't respect the race, didn't respect the hard work and dedication that goes into prepping for an endurance event like a marathon. And I absolutely half-assed it, and I got dealt a time that to some people they could be satisfied with, but for someone like me, it didn't align with my usual approach or method of operation. One thing that I've learned in this journey is I can have a big goal, I can have a high level of expectation for myself, but what we do here this weekend does not dictate or determine who I am as an athlete. And it is literally a stepping stone into what can be achieved over a compounded period of time. I think for most people, they haven't actually come to this level of realisation yet. But a very dark moment in life and a very challenging period of life is when you have to sit down with yourself and actually ask yourself the question, who am I? Because we can go through life, and this is exactly something I did, going through life, putting on a facade, wearing a mask, wearing a makeup, pretending to be somebody I wasn't because I thought it was what society wanted from me. And I thought it's what certain individuals wanted me to be. So you almost go out as an actor each day, and that can become very tiring, very draining, to the extent of you start to contemplate every move, every action you make, thinking, will this make me be perceived more valuable by people if I behave this way, or will I have to do it this way? And when you have to go through that process of being inauthentic, it can be very tiring and draining. And I think the day when you actually sit down with yourself and you can no longer tolerate this act, this constant display of being somebody you're not, and you sit down and you have that conversation, who really am I? And you have to sit back and strip yourself down to the bare bones and have that hard conversation. And when you then move forward through that process of understanding who you are, what you represent, who you want to be, I think that day when you have to come to that realisation is a dark and troubling time for most people, which is why they avoid it. Because most people are afraid of who they really are in the mirror, because a lot of people don't even know, because they've held the act for so long that they've actually lost who they are in that process. Running at first was never something I was really into. If anything, I was very opposed and against running. I used to think that it didn't kind of make sense to put myself through pain, through so much pressure for some kind of gratification that never seemed to come. But when I understood that the metric for growth in running is very simple to track, and that I can understand that I'm progressing by simply looking at a pace, a distance, my heart rate getting better, tiny little things that I could measure in running that kind of gave me that fulfillment in myself of always seeking growth in everything I do. So when I went through that process of starting to take running more seriously only 9 months ago, I fell in love with that process. At first, like anything new, it was tough to really overcome the uncomfortable parts, the parts where you're super unfit, where what the runs that feel like they should be easy aren't, and they're really, really tough, and it's more of a mental battle than it is more of a physical battle. And when that process kind of overcame and I started to see that growth, I started to see myself getting faster, getting fitter, I fell in love with that process the same way I do anything else when I started to see that growth really settle in. So this marathon really is a stepping stone for myself, not just in terms of physical growth and mental growth, but also in the relationship I have with myself. Because I ran a marathon in 2024, I ran the London Marathon in April, and I didn't train for that event. I didn't take it seriously, and I certainly didn't respect what a marathon really took in all aspects of an individual. And I turned up to that race probably in the worst physical state I ever had been in. I turned up in the worst mental state I'd ever been in. I was at a dark point of my life, and that race wasn't just to say I'd ran a marathon, it was almost to put myself in a pit to kind of punish myself for where I was in life. It was a dark moment for me when I ran that marathon back in April. So the reason why I put such emphasis on this next marathon in Lisbon is not just to show myself a level of growth, but it was almost to express what can be achieved when I do something with love, when I really apply myself to the fullest extent, don't miss a meal, don't miss a training session, respect the sport itself, what it actually can bring you when you fall in love with the process, as opposed to just doing it because you feel like you need to push yourself to the next limit. And the whole process, the training block, everything that came up leading to this point of this Lisbon Marathon has really been more of a growing phase for me. My relationship with myself as well as my relationship with the sport of running. So I've been able to really go through a journey in these last 9 months of getting back into running. I literally looked at the metrics, I ran less than 1,000 kilometers this year, but each one of those kilometers represents a moment, a fragment, a memory of growth and the building the relationship with myself. There's been times in the block where I've questioned, is this worth it? What can it represent? What can I become on the other end? There has of course been times when you take your training to that next level, you reach a point where the harder runs now feel like the easier runs, and you have to step into that next phase of training, and that uncomfortability of going from a run that now was once hard is now easy, and then going back into the phase of being hard again, and you now have to really push to now excel into the next level. And there were times at that point where I thought to myself, am I able to get to the next level? Now I have unwavering self-belief, and I know for a fact that whatever I apply myself to, I am going to excel in, but I'm still human. I know that there's times where I feel super uncomfortable, my body's not performing at the level that my mind expects it to. And when I was reaching those points, and I was really pushing, I was putting my body under a lot of strain, a lot of pressure, not allowing myself to recover because my mind had such a high level of expectancy for my body to perform. I was almost treating myself as a machine, and that led me to a point of getting injured simply 6 weeks out from the race. And when I got that injury, it was actually during a run where I was feeling my best. I was running my fastest, it was an interval session, doing 7 1Ks, at an amazing pace, body was flowing so well, didn't even need to check the watch, was literally just getting notified when I'd completed that section. And on the last K, I felt a slight calf strain. And when I felt that strain, I just pushed through because I was like, I'm almost at the end, it's my best session yet. the time's going to look amazing, my coach is going to be very happy with these metrics and this data. Let me just push through and persevere, because what difference can 1K make? And what I learned when I actually caused that injury was sometimes when you feel your body responding to the work that it's going through, you need to almost listen to it and take it on board, not just push through, because no matter how mentally tenacious you are or the level of fortitude you have to be able to endure and withstand pain, your body is simply telling you, we need to slow down, because if we don't, this is going to turn what could just simply be a few hours of rehab and a bag of ice into weeks of not being able to apply pressure to your foot, and we can't run and train anymore. So when I did actually cause that injury, that set me out for a whole month. I had to transition from marathon training, from running 5 days a week, to now Ironman training, which then caused me to have to be in a pool as well as on a bike for hours and hours and hours a week, not even to excel my fitness, but simply to maintain a base level of fitness. So while I was going through the rehab, I went from doing 60, 70K weeks running to zero, completely not on my feet whatsoever. And then we had to build that back up 2 to 3 weeks out from the marathon.
So the big day.
It's here.
So how are you feeling?
Feeling good, man. I feel like I've done everything I could leading up to the race. So whatever happens today happens, and it doesn't dictate or determine who I am as an athlete. You can wake up in the morning of a race and feel the best, or you can wake up and feel like your body simply doesn't want to push for those distances. But I've put in the work, and I know that I'm going to perform to the best of my ability today.
And any game plan for today? Any strategy?
So the plan really, I've got a set pace that I want to hit, but I'm going to head out and just let my body flow. I've looked at the course, I know where there's rolling hills, I know that there's sections that are way more flat. So for me, it's more about just getting out on the course, getting a good feeling for my body, easing into the race and the pace, because 42K is a long distance. And I don't want to just go out guns blazing, aim for marathon pace straight away and burn out within the first 10K with excitement, adrenaline, so many things that can happen. I'm using a new fueling plan as well. I've never fueled properly in any race, even in training. I never had more than 1 gel. So heading into this, I'm planning on having at least nine gels in the race. So there's a lot of new things I'm trying out. There's a lot I'm going to learn from this race. But the game plan essentially is go out, enjoy myself, push my body mind to its limits, and just see how we can perform at the end of the race. Right now, I'm not feeling nervous at all. I'm just telling myself it's a long run. I'm just going for the 3.5 hour long run, and the pace is easy for me. That's just essentially what my internal monologue I've had all morning, all of yesterday leading up to the race is, we're just going out for another training run, and there's nothing to be concerned about. There's nothing different than anything I've already done in training. I'll have internal mantras, things I'll constantly repeat to myself. It's easy for me. It's something I tend to repeat for everything I do, just to remind myself and give my body that reset, my mind that reset, that no matter how tough something feels, no matter how hard an activity or an endeavour feels, that I just tell myself, this is easy for me. So even if there's a phase where I hit a wall, I hit a pain cave, I'm searching for the next aid station, I'm hunting for the next gel to refuel because I need some kind of boost, as long as I can do a mental reset and just tell myself this is easy for me. I can do this. It doesn't matter how much I want to quit, what part of me is telling me to quit, whether it's my mind or my body. I just have to keep resetting that mentality of, this is the first K, we've just stepped into it, it's an easy run. If I hit the pain cave at 30K, 35K, which is where I would expect to start to really feel the work of the rest of the race, that will just be the mental reset to myself, is I'm just going out for a chill zone 2 run. Let's just enjoy what we've got left, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the vibe, take it in, and make mental notes of things that next time when I head into my next race, what can I do with what I've learned in this one?
Oh, bro. Let's go out and get it.
Let's do it, bro.
C'est quoi, c'est le Jeep qui est là?
You have it in you. These 42 kilometers are proof that you can do it. This is
When the gun went off to symbolise the start of the race, it was almost like a deep breath and let's go. So when I first set off, first few moments were okay, cool, we're here now. it's time, like, let's go do this. But I settled in really fast into the race, and once I found that nice rhythm, that nice pace, and I was just passing people, making sure I wasn't falling into too many pockets, getting stuck behind people and having to keep adjusting things forward, back, paces up and down, I managed to find a real good, smooth rhythm. And I managed to, at that time, just really get into the flow and just completely desensitize myself to the environment. So from the starting line up until around 10k, it was pretty simple, to be honest. I was hitting the paces. I was just aiming for anywhere in the range of 440 to 450 to begin with. I wanted to really push on and see like 415, 420. I wanted to see that. But I also reminded myself that if I push on too early, too fast, too early, I'm actually going to be so frustrated with myself later in the race, thinking, why did I allow my ego to overtake my logic? The first 10k I was just keeping it chill, aiming for certain paces, including the hills, because there was a lot of elevation at the very beginning. And when I was weaving through pockets, honestly, I had to overtake probably thousands of people. They mentioned there was around 15,000 participants in the race, and chances are I had to overtake a few thousand just to kind of get into my, let's say, area of people. 15k, I still wasn't aware that I was running a race because I went so inside. I was like, body, just do what you need to do. And I was just having a conversation with myself throughout that process. Got to the half marathon mark, body felt absolutely fine. I was having a gel every 20 minutes. That was almost like my mental reset. Every time I had a gel, it was like, okay, cool, 20 minutes, let's go. And that went on. That process was absolutely fine and seamless up until around the half marathon point, which I hit the largest incline in the race. And it wasn't just like a small steady hill. It was a very heavy gradient, upwards for a good, what felt like a kilometre, just heavy. And that was where a lot of people were pulling back, dropping off, moving to the side. And I was like, right, if I keep pushing forward, all these people are quitting, so this is where it gets hard. So if I can overcome this and get to the top and enjoy what will essentially be a decline on the other side, then I'm already winning, because I'm willing to endure a pain that is causing people to quit right in front of me. So that was almost like a rewarding part of the race. As bad as it sounds, I didn't wish bad health on anybody, but it was a way to make myself persevere more and remind myself I can do this. I'm stronger than I believe, because if this is the point of no return for a lot of people and I can just glide through and get to the other side, I've earned the medal at the end of the race, because I got past the bit that made most people quit. 30k, we kind of sweep down onto a coastal route, very flat but eerie. It was so quiet, there was no spectators. All you could hear was the sound of feet hitting the floor, ones and twos. There was nothing else going on, no one talking, nothing. 34, 35k. I remember I had around 7, 8k left of the race, and that was when my body really started to feel it. My quads were tired, hamstrings, my calves. I was getting to a point where I was like, right, the issue with my calf, where I can now feel the pain and tension in my body, could I now see an injury? And that was interesting for me, because I have told myself and pride myself going into this race that no matter how I feel, I'm going to get it done, and no matter what happens, we're going to finish this race. And that was where I almost questioned for the first time of the race, could I get injured? Like, could something happen? And doubt almost spurred in. Not to the extent of I thought, I'm not gonna make it, I can't do it. But there's starting to be questionable doubt, and questions that I was asking myself where I wasn't sure how I was actually gonna endure the next part of the race. And it was at the 36k board, I remember, where I saw so many people quitting, so my pace significantly slowed down, and it was like, right, I need to shift my mental strategy. I need to change the way I'm thinking about this, because it's no longer about a time. It's no longer about finishing the race at a certain pace and sticking to a certain threshold. This is about finishing now. And what that then led me to do was shift the way I was viewing it. I had to do a complete mental reset. I'd finished all fueling, so there was no more gels left. I had nothing to kind of take my mind away from the physical state I was in. The distractions were now gone. the points that I was using before to refresh myself had gone. So now it's like, right, okay, now this really is me and the environment. What am I going to do to get through this? And I had to just almost convince myself that I was going for an 8k easy run, that this is just a 35-40 minute run, which I've done hundreds and hundreds of times. All I need to do is just float to the end, and I let my body do what it needed to do. When I felt that I had a bit more to spur on and I was in a good point and there was spectators and people were cheering and clapping and all that type of stuff, I gave it that extra push. But then if there was a time where I needed to pull back, I allowed myself to do that. I didn't apply that extra pressure just to get a few minutes off of my time, which could potentially put me out, injure me, cause me to not be able to finish, just because of my ego would outweigh the logic again. Heading onto the cobbled roads, you're now having to be far more aware of what the ground's like, because it's slippery, you're trying not to fall, you're making sure that you're not going to cause an injury just because you've took a misstep. So there's so much to process as you're going through and transitioning different terrains of the race. And that was when I head towards the end, around 41, 42k, as we're coming to the final bit, and it went completely cobbled roads. The rain had kind of eased off, but the floor was still slippery. And at that point, it was just a push for the finish, and the environment gave me the boost I needed to push on for that faster pace. I think I ended up hitting like a 4:15 pace for the last like half a k just to get it done. I felt great, I could see the finish, and I knew that I was about to get it done. But that change throughout it was just a constant adaptation of the environment that was around me.
Shit.
This shows the medal, boy.
Done
How you feeling?
Proud.
Yeah.
So we finished the race at 3:27, 3 hours 27 minutes, which I'm very happy with, because with London I finished in 4 hours 40. So I actually shaved off an hour and 12 minutes of my personal best, which is like a 25% increase in performance. So I was very happy with that. And as I crossed the finish line, I felt a wave of emotions. I felt proud of myself, of course, because I'd just achieved a feat that I've trained for a while, and it's been a goal for a long time. I almost felt like a sense of sadness that it was over, because the anticipation I built up so much around it and what this race would have represented. It wasn't so much about just doing a marathon. It wasn't just a race for me to get a medal at the end. It was, this represents a journey, a almost transition of my life in becoming the newer version of myself, and that ending was like the closing of that chapter. And what it represented for me was all of the growth, all of the training, all of the pain, all of the things that I'd been through in that block, in life, not just in running, but throughout life as well. It just symbolised almost the closing of that chapter, and I just felt an array of emotions. But first of all, I just felt so happy and proud of myself that I stayed committed and didn't ever fail and quit on myself.
So my last and final question, to close off everything we've done this weekend, what's next for Harley?
Continue to grow, continue to push, continue to persevere, keep exploring my options, keep growing as an athlete, as an individual, and still aim for that sub 3 hour marathon. It may not be the next one, it may not be the one after that, but I can assure you the job's not finished. It will get done.